Good morning. It's April 1st and April Fools. Let's see all the fools show themselves as fools now. There's many years of us not knowing who is fools and who is actually smart, let's say. Well, I a lot of people like see that like street preacher that's in all the kind of apocalyptic movies, um, you know, uh, as crazy, you know, as the as a fool. Like he must be just a fool. Preaching out to nobody that wants to listen, right? And yesterday I was setting up the Melatonin Intuitive Health Center at the Nelson Trading Company on Baker Street, right across from RBC, and there was a street preacher right across the street from me, standing next to the RBC, and I was just kind of listening from afar as I was unloading my stuff, and I thought it was quite. I pathologized it in my mind. I made a judgment. I was like, oh, why is this guy just yelling out to the street? There's nobody around, right? But then I heard something that caught my ear, and I was like, wow, that was a very truthful statement he just said right there. And I was like, see, and then it just showed me right there that pathologization of him was my own insecurity, right? Of like, what's this guy just yelling about? And then I realized he caught my ear. He said a truth that I acknowledged, and even if he was yelling, so that means, and I was 20 yards, 30 yards away, and I could hear mostly what he was saying. So that means that there is receptors that are picking up things, and even if some people don't think that um, it's being absorbed, I believe in subconscious messagery. So I realized this guy, he's really just doing what I'm doing, uh, just like say ranting and raving on Baker Street, but I'm doing it on YouTube, right? About the truths in my lives and the worries about which direction the world is going. And I also we started to chat, and I was talking to him, and I was like, oh, we have to know that there's more important things than these crazy laws, and that's God's law. And he grabbed the book, the Bible, and he says to me, he's like, this is the law, right? And I instantly went pathologized him again, and I was like, oh, he's a fundamental Christian. I was like, oh, this is going to be a tough conversation. But then he shocked me again. He kept talking. And he started talking about the archetypal stories pretty well and how these things mean stuff. And I was like, see, like people shut off too early. And I'm talking about myself too, because I've been traumatized by this pathological Christian society that we've developed, and I'm not. And people think, oh, there hasn't been many Christians around. Our foundation is built on Christianity and some of the pathological parts of Christianity. Um, I kept after talking to him for a little while, I noticed he was actually just spewing truth, and he just didn't know what to do. He had all these things to say that were coming from somewhere, right? And he didn't know what to do with them. So he just said, well, I'm going to see who I change. And if 1,000 people walked by him and only one changed their life, that potential person could change 1,000 lives. And then those 1,000 people can change 100,000 lives, and then on going, right? So when people like are all about their vanity and or how many times people have seen them, right, and needing people to see them and all of that just shows insecurity of themselves. So I realize is what we think as the fool or the crazy person on the corner is preaching truth out loud to seemingly nobody, to me ended up being more psychologically sound than 90% of anyone else that I had talked to, on, let's say, the follow the narrative side of things, right? And I heard him kind of talking about women in a way, and I got a little worried, like, and I know where he's coming from. Like we have issues with understanding each other. That's why men are from Mars and women are from Venus, right? Well, we do have different chemicals running through our bodies. At least 60% of us do, right? What I wish that he might have, if I hope that in the future he might have more time for me to talk to him about the the female and the male that's inside of us, or the masculine and the feminine that's inside of us, right? And so I heard him talking, and like he was talking, and there was some truth he was talking, yet he was talking more about feminine and masculine, not male and female, but he was saying women and this, right? So people get confused with sex, which is biological, and gender, which is what we engender at a certain moment, right? And some people that are very masculine and are stuck there because they don't have the ability to be multidimensional in their character, have a lot of trouble dealing with the feminine. And this has nothing to do with sex, right? It doesn't matter who has a dick or vagina here, right? We're talking just what they engender, right? But when somebody can start to understand and integrate the female or the male into their selves, then they'll actually realizes that they really want that balancing force of masculine and feminine, because that allows them to be who they want to be, and they balance each other out, and that's why a lot of times you'll even see very masculine women like kind of running the household, and very feminine men being just fine, like because they don't care to make, that's just not their energy. That has nothing to do with like dictation upon the other person. It's just that what people have different ideas of conscientiousness and cleanliness and all of this, and there is like the masculine is more assertive than the feminine, and who's to say if everyone needs to be perfectly assertive as each other? I've never figured out how to be assertive around women the way I want to. So I'm still learning and understanding this. And, Solomon had 700 wives, and he couldn't find the secrets of the woman, right? And I'm talking about the female, right? So because of that, I was like, I want people to listen more. Like, I'm going back to the preacher on the street, and I wanted to give him something that maybe he could put out that would bring in some of the non-dual psychology or the unity between the sexes. So I at this awesome pawn shop I wouldn't call that, it was just like an antique store more than anything. I picked up a bunch of these really cool paintings, and one of them was a woman and a man like in nature with long natural hair and like native style, and it showed like a unity between the two sexes, right? So I was like, maybe if I give him this, he can put that on the street with him, and maybe that'll see that he's not just angry at women. And I don't know like his situation, because what he was talking about is truth there, but he could have some trauma towards the female side of things. So and that could be why he's passing trauma onto the world. So I hope that's not the situation, but I didn't hear enough to make any judgment upon that. However, I bring that sign over, and I was like, would you take this if you put it out when you're talking or whatever? And he's like, oh no, that sign's too much for me. That gets my mind going, and I have to stay away from that. And I was like, oh well, that's the shadow, but that is evolutionary, and it is what you can harness that fire and use it for good, right? It's kind of what I was saying. And he was really confused about that, and he didn't really have much understanding of shadow integration or getting that dragon on its chain, right? Like he couldn't even have a picture of two not naked people looking into each other's eyes in love without his testosterone going up, right? So he wouldn't take the sign, right? And I was like, this is one of the issues I have with people that not people, just what the Bible does to people somewhere. Like it's just like little subliminal things, is that they pathologize sex, and they pathologize all sorts of things. We've talked about some of that, but sex especially. And I believe that what we have to realize is our chi energy is from our sexuality, right? That's why we need to remember is that energy that comes from there is something that we should learn to harness. And as men are addicted to the dopamine hit of having a ejection or ejaculation, they are actually let going their chi force. And so when a man, I'm talking about men because that's the only one I understand. I've never had the other parts, but when a man is so it's when a man lets go his chi energy, even the next day he doesn't have it. So martial artists and a lot of spiritual people that want to bring energy from the source and stuff will actually play with themselves a lot, right? And this is called masturbation. And a lot of like Christians are like, no masturbation, none of that hedonistic stuff. But masturbation is in a way for you to bring the chi up. It's like bringing in the energy, right? But you're doing it with your animal drive, and you get going, but you don't ejaculate, right? You stop just before, right? And if you keep doing this, right, and you don't ejaculate for a very long time, as long as you don't stop it at the wrong time, because then you can have pain down there, but as long as you have good discipline, you're learning to harness. First of all, you're learning discipline, sexual discipline. You're learning how to harness chi, which can be used for unreal things. And that's where like you'll actually see videos of people that understand chi, and they can actually start fire with their hands, and people will be like, whoa, is that real? Well, you can go look at the videos and decide if you're sure yourself. I mean, I believe it. I also know, I've seen like how people harness chi for karate, and how much power you can harness with a punch when you've got chi force, and you know your balance of that force and where does that come from, right? So as soon as we pathologize the dragon um, on a chain, because it is okay to, we should pathologize the dragon that's free for all, tearing through the world, you know, having sex with every woman in hedonistic pleasure. But should we pathologize like a natural tendency of a man? Like, is there a way for a man to be integrated in their sexuality but have multiple partners? And maybe not all of those partners are sexual partners, right? Because blood lineage is why a man wants to go out and plant his seed, right? But cultural lineage is actually much more powerful and much more important. So that's why I did a video on the Trinity, and I talk about how we actually should look to the triangles, and think about like the structure and how powerful that is, and how when you aren't possessive of your partner, then you can share them with other people and not be envious or jealous of the connection, because we all connect to different people in different ways. And if we become possessive of each other, then we're not allowing ourselves to pass on cultural lineage in a Trinity fashion. We're only passing it back and forth. And there's also, it's very easy to become ego and inflate each other's egos when there's just two of you, because if like you both think really highly of each other, and you just both keep on telling each other how cool each other, just so the other person keeps telling you how cool they are, then you can see where that trouble comes in. You see a lot of like couples up on their ivory towers because they don't connect to their community in a Trinity fashion. They connect in straight lines, which means, you know, their partner is here and here, and then they have friends over here, and like this is polyamory, right? Well, all these people are like, oh, loving everybody's good, and that is absolutely true. Loving everybody is good. Sorry, not absolutely, because there's love that hurts, and this is the dangers of compassion, right? Unconditional love, you know, there is like, okay, unconditional love, let's say that is there always, right? The compassion is the dangerous one, right? So what is a healthy way of raising a child? Well, I believe that if you have very healthy parents, then your child is going to be even healthier than you are, right? And especially if you have parents that have no egotism towards holding themselves up on their ivory towers, right? And you'll see like there's a time when the son bypasses the father, right? But there's the father, it doesn't knows this is going to happen, and he could, if he's wants to always be up on his ivory tower, he'll just do this and make sure the son never comes up by being the dark father rather than the light father that lifts the child up. Well, egotism comes from that back and forth, like dopamine reaction. You're so cool. No, you're so cool. Oh, thank you. We're the coolest in the world, right? Me and you, us in this couple, right? Think of all the craziness in the world and how sick everybody else is. Yeah, well, you add a third person in there that's connected to another trinity. So see, you got two couples and somebody in the middle that connects, right? And they can all connect together, and they all meet together, and there's no possessive nature. Then you have more subjectivity to your understanding of morality and egotism. So a healthy relationship would actually be, in my mind, if you have the consciousness to understand, to overstand your envy, jealousy, and possessiveness, then the Trinity is a higher evolutionary way of having a relationship, which means, if you have one strong woman, it might be a good idea let's do this properly. If we have one strong feminine energy, really strong feminine energy, then we probably want two of like less strong masculine energies, and so then they are power, they work together, right? But you never do this. They're always a trinity. There's always the three that connects each other. You never do this, and that means keeping secrets and doing all this stuff apart from each other, talking behind each other's back. That's a line. That is not good. That doesn't connect communities. That just makes egotism and divisive bullshit, right? Well, so stay in the trinity, right? And if you're building off, build off in the right nature, right? It becomes hard as soon as you become like 4 and 5, and 6 works well again because it has the ability to come together. And I'm not saying somebody should have 5 wives or 5 husbands, yet some people should. Well, evolutionary, it makes sense, because if we want to have better minds, which are better at creating ways to take care of this earth and take care of each other and all that stuff, then we want the better minds to plant more seeds, right? And I'm not talking blood lineage yet, that too, okay, because they're both important, right? But the most important, doesn't matter what blood you are, is the culture, right? So if you have a powerful person that has culture to pass on, then that person can be a center of many trinities. And that would be the idea of King Solomon, right? And that's why he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. He didn't have sex with all 700 wives, I would assume. Or maybe he did. However, the idea is he was a part of all of those people's lives because they surrounded him in a trinity fashion, and that separates out and passes cultural identity and lineage a lot faster and less in a nepotistic manner, right? So we look at what happened with what they've pathologized the Jewish religion. This has nothing to do with blood or anything. It says in there, if you don't get to have these teachings unless you join this one group, which is the Jewish faith, right? And this is a situation where we look at, and they have a beautiful logocentric style teaching method where they put 2 kids together reading the Quran together, and they have arguments and say, no, it means this, no, it means this, no, it means this, and they go back and forth and then the rabbi comes over and he becomes the Trinity, right? So he lets them fight out between each other so that they understand ego and being able to fight each other. It's like psychological fighting, and it's important to shadow integration, right? But then when the rabbi sees that these guys are not getting anywhere because they're both so pig-headed on the fact that they don't understand there's 2 truths, right? The rabbi comes over and says, see, there's this truth because of this situation, and there's this truth because of this situation. And they go, oh, wow, thanks, rabbi. And that is unreal. That is beautiful. That's teaching people the logos. That's teaching people Gnosticism, right? And But because they built it in a line, right? They didn't build it in a trinity, which is unity. They built it in a line. It means only our blood lineage or cultural lineage, like you have to get circumcised, wear the big this, you got to do all those things just to be into part of the knowledge. That is a pathological gatekeeping, right? So, and that's what we do when we stick to our family and we're like, I only tell certain things to my family and I don't pass that stuff on because then other people might become powerful and compete against me, right? So that's competition over cooperation again. So if we want more powerful minds and powerful spirits, then we wouldn't be possessive. It would be silly for a person to be possessive of a great person that could spread their lineage further if they were only allowed to, right? So he wouldn't take the painting from me, obviously, and he's still like very like scared of his sexuality. Myself, it fuels me, and I don't want to. I've made a rule for myself is that if I am going to get like sexually involved, I mean intercourse with a woman, is that she'll have to understand is I am looking to have a child, and I am going to try. This is something I don't know if I have the virtue to pull this off though. Is only to ejaculate with a woman if it's for reproduction. So I don't know if I can get away with it. I'll let you guys know if I fail. However, we have to understand is if you want to avoid yin possession, which is possession by the sexual siren's call of a beautiful woman and the energies that come off of them, then you should try to integrate that dark side of your sex drive into something that's more, because it's the intent of what we do, not what we do, right? And it's not just the intent, it's the intent of what we do, and it's also if we're sharing that intent with our other people, our sexual partners, then are the people in that situation fully negotiated on what things are pathological and what things are good, So you should be very upfront and truthful with how you are sexually, so that and so you can see if the partner that is coming into your life is going to pathologize your idea of healthy sexuality or spiritual sexuality, or trying to keep that thing on the chain, right? Well, if they can't handle that intensity of you, then it's separating the wheat from the chaff, right? So be who you are and you will find the right love. And who you are is that dragon, whatever darkness that dragon holds. You're only what you do. You're not what you think of, right? If we start ghost hunting everybody's subconscious, like a lot of these neo-Marxist things do, then how can we tell who's virtuous and who's not? Everyone's just sick then, right? Yeah, well, we are all sick, right? But we're also all good, too. Much love.